Especially lately, I've been getting quite a few questions regarding how I make my shakes, so I thought I would make a video. So to start, I have a clip here. It is 1.5 seconds long, which I think is a pretty standard length for a clip, and the composition is also 1920 by 1080 pixels. Before I start, I'd also like to say that I will not be using any plugins in this tutorial. However, if you wanted to replace transform, which does not require a plugin to use, with blur mode curves, which comes with the Sapphire plugin, because I know a lot of people like to make the transitions with the blur mode curves, then you can keep following along, but instead of when I place transform, you can put blur mode curves. Make sure that you pre-compose your clip. So right click, pre-compose, make sure you have these settings. Next, make sure that you turn motion blur on and you enable motion blur on the clip that you're using. Now in the Effects and Presets tab, you're going to search for motion tile and add it to the clip that you are working with. Enable mirror edges and make the output width and output height 250. Next in the Effects and Presets tab, I'm going to search for warp and add it to our clip. I'm also going to search for transform and add it to our clip. Here is where you can replace transform with blur mode curves if you choose. This may just be a glitch on my After Effects, but if I don't have warp on top of transform like this, then it won't render. So as a precaution, I would recommend putting warp on top of transform in the effects control over here. We're going to go to warp style and change the arc to squeeze. Make sure your time indicator is at the beginning of your clip and change the bend to 25 and add a keyframe. Add a keyframe for position, scale, and rotation as they are. I'm going to be showing you how to make two shakes, a horizontal shake and a vertical shake, starting with the vertical shake first. Go to the end of your clip and keyframe everything as it is, but change the bend to 0. So I'm going to start with position. I'm going to decrease the second position value, and as you can see, that little dot is moving up. And since this is a vertical shake, we're going to make the vertical bounces bigger than the horizontal. I'm only going to decrease the first position value a little bit, just like this. So you should see that this dot has moved up diagonally like this, and now we're going to move over 1 or 2 keyframes, and we're going to bring this down, which will be increasing the second position value, and to the right, which would be increasing the first position value. And we're just going to keep flip-flopping from up and down and left to right like this, and each time we're going to decrease the distance from the center. Next, I'm going to move the time indicator maybe 1/4 into the clip, and I'm going to decrease the position value again, but this time not as much as we did the first time, and decrease the first position value again, not as much as we did the first time. Now moving towards the center of your clip, again we're going to go increase the position value and move the circle down, and then the circle right, increasing the first position value. Now we're going to add 1 more keyframe in between however much distance you have left. And we're going to just move this back up. We're going to decrease both of the values again, but this time we're only going to leave this much space so that the 2 dots are touching. So now after we've done that, you also want to make sure that your keyframes are gradual. So if you want to adjust them a little bit, you can watch it over to see if you like it or not. I might just move each keyframe over a little bit like that. Next, we're going to be moving on to the bend, the warp. Again, we're going to be flip-flopping between negative and positive values, so it bounces. How I place the bend keyframes is in between of position keyframes. So we're going to move 1 keyframe so that it's in between the first 2 position keyframe. I'm going to make the value -17. And moving in between the next 2 set of position keyframes, I'm going to make the value 12. Now moving to the next set of position keyframes, I'm going to make the value -6. And then to the next set of position keyframes, make the value 3. And then to the last one, I'm going to make the value -1. Now we are going to do the rotation. So move your time indicator back to the beginning of your clip and change the rotation to 3. we're going to move it over 3 or 4 keyframes. I have 3 keyframes here. I'm going to make it -2. I'm going to put our last keyframe in the middle of the keyframe we just placed and our end keyframe. So I'm going to make this 1, keeping our values flip-flopping between negative and positive values. Lastly, we're going to do the scale. Move your time indicator to the beginning of the composition and change your scale to 180. Highlight your scale keyframes, right-click, keyframe assistant, and easy ease them. And now I'm going to be making a graph. I'm going to be making a value graph, so if your graph looks like this, press this button here and change your graph to value graph. Now you can follow my graph make. We're just going to be making something like that. You can make it tighter or looser if you want, depending on your style, but this looks good to me. So we are almost done. One final thing that I think the cherry on top of the shake, I'm going to be adding optics. So we're going to go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, and turn it to the length of your clip. And in the Effects and Presets tab, search for Optics Compensation and add it to the adjustment layer. So go to the beginning of your clip, click on this box that says Reverse Lines Distortion, make a keyframe for Field of View, and change the value to 100. Now go to the end of your clip where the shake ends and change this value to 0. Press U on your keyboard to see the keyframes, highlight them, easy ease them, and then make a graph. Now this graph I typically like to make not as tight as the shake graphs. I usually just flip this side in like that, and that's it. Lastly, I'm going to be adding a glow. This is optional. Not everyone likes the look of glows. I personally really like them, use them in every single edit, but I usually use the S_glow from Sapphire. If you don't have that, search for brightness and contrast. Add it to your clip. At the beginning of your clip, keyframe brightness at 100, or if you want to make the glow brighter, you can bring it up, or if you don't like how bright it is, you can bring it down, but I think 100 looks good, so 100. And then towards the middle of your clip, bring it back down to 0. And now we have a glow. I'm also going to be showing you how to do the Sapphire Glow, so I'm going to search for S_glow. I'm going to keyframe the brightness at the beginning of our clip at 2, then towards the middle of our clip, I'm going to bring it down to 0. I told you I'm going to be showing you how to make a horizontal shake as well. We'll be following the same stuff we did last time, but there's one key difference that I need to show you. So our clip is back to normal, and we're going to be adding all of the same effects, so motion tile, warp, and transform. Make sure the motion tile settings are output width and output height 250. Make sure you change the warp style to squeeze. If you're doing a horizontal shake, you're going to want to change the warp axis to vertical. And you can see the warp now squishes in the opposite direction that it did before. So we're going to follow the same step we did last time, but this time I'm going to go much faster. So bend, 25, and transform, scale, and rotation. Keyframe at the beginning, and I'm going to keyframe everything at the end. And I'm going to change bend to 25. Starting with the position value, we're going to do the same step we did last time, but instead we're going to be focusing more on our first position value. So I've increased both of my values, then moving over 2 keyframes, decrease both of my values, see how the circles switch sides, and it's switched from top to bottom too, and then moving over a few keyframes again, switching sides again, and then one more time. As you can see, I did not do a good job at making this gradual, so I'm just going to move these keyframes over, and then I'm going to go and add one more keyframe, which is very, very close to the center, like so. Now we're going to be doing the bend values, and we're again going to be putting them in between of the position values, so I'm going to be using the same or similar values, so -17, then 12, then -6, 3, into -1. Next we're going to do rotation. This time starting with a -3 and then moving to 2 and then -1. Lastly, we're doing the scale, so we're going to move our time indicator to the beginning of our clip, keeping the scale at 180, highlight our scale keyframes, easy ease them, and make our graph. So now we're going to be adding our adjustment layer again, trimming it to the length of our clip, and we're going to search for optics compensation. Time indicator at the beginning of our clip, select reverse blend distortion, keyframe field of view at 100, move to the end of your clip and keyframe field of view at 0. Highlight easy ease, make the graph, make it a little bit small, a little bit less tight than our shape graph. And lastly, of course, this is optional, I'm going to be adding a glow. So this is a Sapphire Glow, but of course if you don't have Sapphire, you can use the glow I showed you earlier. I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it and want to see more, then you can subscribe. And my editing Instagram is at double.front. I will leave a link to it in the description as well. So thank you for watching, and bye!